Ooh, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. You really, I swear to God, you can't take me anywhere. Hello and welcome back to Random Librarian here on YouTube. So recently, the 2021 Asian Readathon prompts and challenge was announced. So I figured I'd go through my shelves, see what I have, what I still need to kind of check out from the library, and go from there. So this year there are 5 challenges, which is read any book written by an Asian author, read any book featuring an Asian protagonist, read any book written by an Asian author in your favorite genre, read any nonfiction book written by an Asian author, and read any book written by an Asian author that's not US centric. So I'm gonna try to read 5 different books for the 5 different prompts. And the one thing that I don't think I have on my shelves right now is a nonfiction book by an Asian author. I did recently listen to Ace on Libby, which is by an Asian author, and she talks about her intersection of identities as an asexual woman and an Asian American woman and how that like gets all up. So if anyone needs a recommendation for that, I highly recommend it. I think everyone should read that book. But I definitely need to do some more research just because I'm less into nonfiction in general, so I don't have as many like ideas to pull from. But, you know, going from there it should be a-okay. So for the other ones, you are able to like mix and match, and I'll put the link to Cindy's launch video and the Google Doc that she put together. Oh, and the story graph. That's something that I really love, is that the story graph is being used as a way to pull together all of the different recommendations from people taking part. So that's really cool, and that's definitely where I'm going to be going to look for my nonfiction recommendations. But I figured I'd just go through my shelves, see what books I have, where they take place, where their authors are from, and you know, give myself plenty of options because I am a big mood reader, and I'm not just gonna pick 5 books because then I won't read those 5 books. So I have a lot of books, and I don't foresee myself reading all of these in May because it's a lot, but I do want to try to at least read 5 of them. So I think the biggest category of books that I have on my shelf that will be good for this 2021 Asian Readathon actually come from Japan, which was kind of surprising. I did really enjoy reading some books based in Korean mythology last year, but I sent them to a friend, so that kind of makes sense that I don't have a Korean presence on my shelves. But for Japan, I have 4 books. I am finally going to try to read, I always thought it was IQ84, but apparently it's 1Q84, and it's very chunky. So I'm at least going to start it. I don't know if I'll be able to read all, 1,000+ pages? 1,157 pages in May, but I definitely want to start this because I have really enjoyed everything that I've read from Haruki Murakami. You know, he is like a titan of an author. He's got so many books published and they're all unique and interesting, and this has been on my shelf for far too long. I gave a copy that I found in like a little free library to a friend of mine, so I'm gonna see if I can convince her to buddy read this with me, because I think in that case we'll both read quicker. So I have this. I also have Paprika, which is a much shorter book, but I've seen compared to Haruki Murakami before. A friend's mom actually asked me for recommendations for a birthday present one year, and they said that he really enjoyed Haruki Murakami, and this is what the internet said, and then I had it on my shelves. So win-win for everybody. So this is dream invading devices and a dream detective. It just sounds so fun. But this is originally published in 1993, so it's definitely a backlist read. It's sci-fi, which I really enjoy, but it is not my absolute favorite genre, so this would probably be used for one of the other topics. Next up, we have Earthlings, and I absolutely love this cover. I think it's so cute, and it also makes me kind of laugh a little bit. I did get this as an ARC way back when, I think after one of the American Library Association conferences, and I've seen people get absolutely emotionally wrecked by this one, so I think it's a little bit on the darker side, and I don't know that much more about it other than that it is by the same author as Convenience Store Woman and is in translation from Japanese. So this one also seems like it might be in the sci-fi genre. I'm not sure how seriously they're treating aliens as a plot device, because from some of the reviews that I've read, it might be the way that trauma is explored. But we have kind of a family narrative. One of the daughters feels like an outsider, and her best friend is this little is this little hedgehog plush who claims to be an alien from a different planet. So that's kind of what's going on with this book. Beyond seeing people be emotionally wrecked by this book, I don't know too much more. So it should be interesting to dive in. And I mean, compared to 1Q84, everything is shorter, and this hopefully would be a quicker read at 234 pages. Then lastly, for my Japan umbrella, I have 50 Words for Rain, which I actually won as part of a giveaway on Bookstagram, which is very exciting, especially because the author actually graduated from the same university I attended for undergrad. So that was really exciting. This follows a main character who is kind of unwanted by her family in a very upsetting way. She is the product of I don't think it's a marriage, but a relationship between a Japanese woman from like a high-class family and her African-American is it GI? GI lover, yes. So her grandparents take her in and really try to hide her from the world and make her feel like she is lesser than because she is of mixed descent and she has darker skin. So they put her in harmful situations in order to try to lighten her skin and keep her from the world. So I think this follows kind of decades of Nori's life as she tries to overcome that neglect and active harm from her childhood. So definitely a heavier topic. This is one of the few hardcovers that I have included in this list because I am weird and don't prefer hardcovers. I would much rather have a paperback in my hands. So that's kind of what's been keeping me from reading it before now, even though the topic is heartbreaking and sounds like it would make for a really great story. But that's what's going on with this. This is by, I don't believe that the author is from Japan. It's hard to know an author's backstory. Even looking through, trying to find lists of them listed as Asian American authors, because it's not always front and center, like that this is a book from an author who identifies as X, and it feels kind of weird to do a lot of research into that in order to include them on a list. But I think that this would be under the topic of a book with an Asian main character and not necessarily a book written by an Asian author. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So the next biggest category I have are books featuring Asian characters written by Asian American authors set in the US, which is a kind of long title, but that's what we're going for here. And that includes Legend by Marie Lu, which I am sure most of you have already read, but I haven't, and it's been on my I should read that list for such a long time, so I'm really hoping that I'll get to this one, just because it feels very strange that I didn't read it when I was like the age for a young adult audience. That being said, I don't know if I actually know that much about it other than that I've been told to read it a lot. So, Legend, Marie Lu. Then next up, I have Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. And when I tell you that I have not been the same after reading Everything I Never Told You by the same author, whew, Ooh, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. You really, I swear to God, you can't take me anywhere. But I am kind of in awe of Celeste Ng's masterful writing style and the way that she just pulls emotions straight from me. So I'm excited to read Little Fires Everywhere. I haven't seen the show adaptation, and thankfully I've actually kind of kept away from any spoilers. So I think this is definitely one that I have to read. Despite how heavy Everything I Never Told You was, it was very quick to read when I wasn't like putting it aside for my own mental well-being. So I hope that this one would read similarly quickly, and everyone seems to really love it. So hopefully this will make it on the list. And this takes place in Cleveland. I think Legend takes place in California. Then we have Yes, No, Maybe So, which is by a 2-author team of writers. We have Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed, who is Pakistani American, I believe, and this book also takes place during Ramadan. So that's kind of an interesting twist on a political rom-com. The whole thing feels like a twist. And I've got some heavier books on this list, so a nice little young adult, or I guess it's not necessarily little, it's bigger than the previous 2 books I just mentioned, but hopefully a more heartwarming novel. Might be a nice break from the heartbreak that I'm setting myself up with for the month of May. So that is Yes, No, Maybe So. Then lastly, I have started this one, but I haven't finished it because, like I said, I am a mood reader, and that is The Chosen and the Beautiful by, and I believe this is how you pronounce it because I looked up videos either interviewing her or talking about her books, which is Nouveau. And I so far am so intrigued because it's The Great Gatsby, but it's focusing on Jordan, who has always been my favorite character when it comes to The Great Gatsby. And Jordan, in this iteration of that well-known story, is a transracial Vietnamese adoptee who has magic. And Gatsby is either a demon or has demon magic. And there's so much going on, and I really like it so far. I'm really not that far in, but that's already, like, I can tell you all of that's going on. Also, queer. Love it so much. It takes place in New York, and I believe that the author is from Illinois. So, Asian American author and Asian American main character. Next up, I think the next biggest category, or I guess going forward, they're kind of all on the smaller side. But I have 2 books set in magic-y versions of China, which is very fun. So Jade City by Fonda is set in Hong Kong, I believe. Oh, sorry. This might not be set in China. I read a review on the back that said it is reminiscent of the best classic Hong Kong gangster films, but takes place in a fantasy metropolis so gritty and well imagined that you'll forget you're reading a book. So, just kidding. This makes my other category bigger. So, this is fantasy lands pulling from like Asian settings. So we have this one, which is either, it's the island of Kekon or Kikon, I'm not sure which one it is. And I have heard great things about this as well, but I don't know much about it. That seems to be kind of a theme that I got going on here. I love to have books in my collection. Like, if you tell me it's good, I'll probably buy it and then give it to somebody else. That's how my reading works. So if I'm sticking in this category of magical lands, we also have The Bone-Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart, which has a quote from Sarah J. Maas on the cover, so I hope more people pick it up. So it doesn't say exactly where it was inspired from, but it has a pretty unique type of magic just based on the cover alone. It's bone shard magic. So I'm very intrigued already and really excited to figure out how that works, how it plays into this land of emperor who doesn't want to make his daughter his heir, and a whole bunch of interwoven storylines. I saw them mentioned in an interview, and I'm so intrigued to see how they all come together because there were like 5. And the last time I saw that done really well was in The Priory of the Orange Tree. So if we can like match that level of storytelling, and also I think there's a queer relationship in this book as well, I'm gonna be really excited. And this, I think both of these actually are in my favorite category, which is fantasy. So I'll have a couple options to pull from for that prompt. Then I also have Haroun and the Sea of Stories by another absolute titan of an author, which is Salman Rushdie, who is British Indian. And the back of this says, set in an exotic eastern landscape peopled by magicians and talking animals. So again, I don't know fully exactly where this is set, but I do know that it is inspired by some kind of Asian country, whether that is India or a mishmash of different stories, because we've got a sea of stories. I don't know. And I have definitely got to read more of Salman Rushdie. I've only read one of his books, which feels wrong anytime I remember that because I really enjoyed the one that I did read. And I'm so intrigued by his other books, and like people whose opinions of books that I really trust seem to absolutely love it. So I'm disappointed in myself for not having read it before now. Then I don't have this in physical form, but I do have it in audio and on ebook, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir, which I think is also, yes, so that world is inspired by ancient Rome, written by a Pakistani American author. And it's another one that I have seen nothing but incredible things about. And it seems just kind of like brutal and magical with maybe like a soupçon of romance thrown in. So definitely one I'm very excited to dive into as well. I have all 3 books, so I don't know why I haven't started it before now. Sometimes I just want to shake myself when I see the books on my shelves and I'm like, why haven't you read that yet? So if you also want to do that, leave me a comment. Feel free to yell at me. And then this next one is set in, I'm not sure if it's actually like in this time period or just inspired by this time period and maybe with magic, but we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, which I know people have absolutely loved. And this is inspired by the Second Sino-Japanese War. Oh yes, and we have shamanic powers. That might be the only way to say it for people. And I've also seen people be emotionally destroyed over this book as well. So that should be fun. I have book 1 and book 2 because they're out in paperback. I didn't see book 3 in paperback yet, but I will do some research and order it from an indie bookstore because as I'm filming this, it is actually Independent Bookstore Day. So that's very fun. And then last up, I have a book set in India by an Indian author, which is A Burning. And I think that this is more of a contemporary novel instead of any of the magic or the more historic versions that I've mainly talked about. This was a debut novel that got a lot of buzz last summer, so I have no excuse to not have read it before now. And we have 3 storylines that intertwine with Jeevan, who's a Muslim girl from the slums who is accused of executing a terrorist attack on a train. Then we have an opportunistic gym teacher who hitches his aspirations to a right-wing political party whose own ascent depends on Jeevan's fall. And the third character is Lovely, who is an irresistible outcast who wants to be on Bollywood, or in Bollywood? Of Bollywood? And Lovely has the alibi that could set Siobhan free, but it will cost her everything she holds dear. So there is a lot at stake in this novel, and I think 2 people in my household have read it and absolutely loved it. So fingers crossed my mood reading self will let me read at least 5 great books this upcoming month and go from there. Hello again, I have an update because I found more books on my shelves. I figured out what I'm gonna be borrowing from Libby, and I really enjoy the Storygraph system that Cindy put together for the Asian Readathon. So let's go. On Libby, I borrowed When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi, which is a memoir that has actually been recommended to me by a really good childhood friend of mine. And I started listening to it on my commute yesterday, and it is both beautiful and heartbreaking because it is published posthumously from Paul, who you get to know through his childhood, and he tells you stories about how he discovered he had cancer, and he's like a neurosurgeon. So far it's already just we are off to the races. My heart is already broken, but I'm really enjoying his perspective. I don't really know how to handle those kinds of warring instincts there, but I'm just blown away. So I'm listening to that. I also borrowed Once Upon an Eid, which are stories of hope and joy by 15 Muslim voices. So that's also nonfiction, and it's edited by 2 New York Times bestselling authors, S.K. Ali and Aisha Saeed. So that's very exciting. Then I also borrowed the audiobook for Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, which I thought I had in physical form as well, but can't seem to find. So might just audio instead of doing the audio and reading. And They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, which is something that I've actually wanted to read for a really long time. It focuses on the internment camps that the US government imprisoned Japanese American citizens in during World War II, which is something that we don't really talk about at all in history classes, and we probably should. So I'm going to get my heart broken by Star Trek actor and also just all around stellar human being. Love George Takei. I love a good graphic memoir, I have to say. Okay, other things I found on my shelf. I bought Shatter Me without knowing anything about the author or the series because TikTok has been recommending it nonstop. And Tahera Mafi, who's the author, and I'm so sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. I tried to look it up, but there were 2 pronunciation guides, so Google failed me. This book is written by an Iranian American author. So I am very excited about that, especially because it is in my favorite type of book, which is fantasy. It's also, I think, young adult. Then Juliet is our main character, and she can't touch people because her touch is deadly, and that reminds me of X-Men also. So I'm excited. Then let's see. I do have some Korean authors books set in Korea. Yes. So Frances Cha grew up in the United States, Hong Kong, and South Korea. And I have If I Had Your Face, which is a book that I've been meaning to read for quite a while, and I find it absolutely fascinating because it deals with the beauty standards in South Korea, which, as anyone who has watched K-drama or is a fan of K-pop, I imagine, would know. They are wild, the standards of beauty. So I think this follows 3 or 4 different women and how they navigate their world and their beauty. So that's on the list again. let's see, did I have another? Oh, I just talked about this one and then it was on one of my lower shelves because it's like grayish white. And this is East Goes West by Kang. And I'm just gonna read the little blurb about him that they include in this edition, which is Kang, who was born in 1903 and died in 1972, was born in what is now North Korea and emigrated to the United States in his late teens. He studied at Boston University and Harvard and published widely in such outlets as the New York Times and The Nation. While teaching English at New York University, he was introduced by fellow professor Thomas Wolfe to legendary Scribner's editor Maxwell Perkins, who would publish Kang's books. Kang was the first Asian to be awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship. He would be awarded 2 in his lifetime among his many other honors. He died in his home in Satellite Beach, Florida. So he studied in my town. Boston University and Boston College have a bit of a rivalry, and I went to BC, but I won't hold that against him because this is supposedly a kind of satirical look at assimilation in the United States. And it's part of this collection, which is like classics that you should have on your shelf. And yeah, so that's on the list as well. For a Palestinian author, I have Salt Houses by Hala Alyan, which I bought originally for a book club at the Brookline Booksmith, and then I moved, so I didn't read it and I didn't go to the meeting. But that book club actually had great selections when it came to books, so it's definitely going to be stunning. All right, so this is a multi-generational family story of Palestinian family as they scatter across the globe, and brings us to a greater understanding of how we carry our origins in our hearts wherever we may roam, which is a quote by Rue Freeman. So, Salt Houses. Next up, I have a book by a Singaporean British author, who was raised in Southeast Asia, which is Stephanie Scott. So it's set in modern day Tokyo and inspired by true events. So I think this is, I think I started this and then we moved again. And this focuses on mother-daughter duo. The father hires someone to get his wife to cheat on him because he wants to divorce her, I think is what that is. It's called a waka resaseya, which is literally breaker-upper. And father never understood his wife or her desires, and the job of breaking them up goes too well, and yeah, they fall in love. We've got alternating points of views between the daughter trying to piece together the story and the mother as she's living through the story. What's left with me is yours. And then lastly, again, this was on my bottom shelf because it is a gray cover, and I can't believe I forgot to include it in the first round of this video, which is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, which is a book that I've wanted to read for such a long time because it feels like it is every third person's all-time favorite book, or book that most destroyed them when they read it. So it is time, I believe. And Hanya Yanagihara grew up in Hawaii, so this is a Hawaiian author that I have on my list. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about the organization of the story graph listing that's going on here, because it makes it much easier to discover what's already on my shelves just by going through and being like, oh, that looks good, I want to read that, or oh, I have that, I should use that for this prompt. So that's been really cool, going through and doing that. Of course, my biggest category, I just went through fantasy books by Asian authors first, so I don't fully know what other lists those would count for, but I'm making my way through the lists and assigning things. It's a great way to organize things. It's a great way to figure out what I need to add to my shelves. Need is a relative term, of course. And it's just a lot of fun. So that is my update. Now I will go back to the other video for the whole sign off thing. So that's kind of where I'm gonna leave this video. Like I said, I'll leave links to things in the description. If you have any advice for what I should read, please don't hesitate to leave it in the comments, because I've got a lot of great options here and I feel kind of paralyzed in my choosing. But whatever 5 I read, I am sure they're going to be stellar. So we'll see. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.